Hello, everyone. Let's see. I'm going to pin my Mamba Mentality on Instagram, and we're on Facebook. Hello, happy Monday. I'm here to give you some positivity on a day where a lot of people are probably lacking a little bit of it, especially because of what happened this past weekend with an icon in the game of basketball, but in the game of a lot of other people's lives as well. Kobe Bryant was one of the most amazing human beings on this earth, and I decided to devote today's entire live to his mentality called the Mamba Mentality. So that's what today's live is going to be about. It's triggered all towards physical words that I've heard come out of his mouth that have changed the game for not only me, but for so many athletes across this universe. So I'm super excited to talk about this topic because he has left a legacy, and it's our job to be able to learn as much as we can from what he showed us. And this episode might be hard for some of you to hear, honestly. Like, some people were so impacted by his work, not only on the court but off, that this may be an episode that, like, you are thinking about Kobe Bryant and it makes you sad. Maybe this isn't the episode for you this week. Maybe this is something where you look at later. But this is something where I was like, I can't go about today's live talking about any other topic, because he was a legend in so many ways, to where I truly believe that if we can just take some notes on how amazing this human was, and how if we can adopt some of his Mamba mentality into our life, we can go about anything that we want and do it to the best of our ability. So with that, I start every single live with something positive. As some of you may know, this past weekend, it was my birthday, and my best friend / former teammate at Purdue, she came down from Chicago and visited me all weekend. We ate at my favorite restaurant. We had an amazing time. My boyfriend even surprised me and invited both his family and my family all together for my birthday dinner, and so it was so awesome. That was like my biggest highlight from the weekend. I hope you guys had an amazing weekend as well and are having a good Monday to start off your week. With that, let's get into Mamba Mentality. So actually, to prep for this live, I listened to a podcast. I actually re-listened to it because I think it was sometime this past year. There was a podcast that went out with The School of Greatness by Lewis Howes. If you guys are into podcasts, definitely download The School of Greatness. He interviews some of the most epic people ever, and basically, like, just ask them how they live their life. How did they become so good at what they do? And it's such an insightful podcast. So it's called The School of Greatness by Lewis Howes. But this past year, I listened to his interview with Kobe Bryant. And he had retired already. He was coming out with his book, Mamba Mentality, at the time. And it was something that I listened to about a year ago. But clearly, like today, since I wanted to make today's live be all about Kobe Bryant, I re-listened to it this morning, and it's so interesting that a year ago versus today, I think I was adopting topics from listening to that podcast today that a year ago I never really thought about. So it's so interesting how you can go back and look at something that maybe it's like a movie you've watched, or maybe it's just like some sort of motivational speech. You are going to listen to it now different than when you listened to it in the past. So I listened to this podcast a year from now, but being in the current situation that I'm in right now, and, you know, Kobe no longer being here, the things that he was saying really stuck to me a lot more today than they did a year from now, or a year ago, I mean. So it was so awesome being able to listen to it, and I only got halfway through it. It's about, I think it said it was like 54 minutes long, and I only listened to the first half because there were so many good, insightful pieces inside that first half that I was like, that's what I'm going to devote to this live today. And I'm a little shorter on time today because we have practice at 4, so I got to run out of here earlier than normal. So I'm just going to get through this as fast as I can, but hopefully this stuff sticks with you. Hopefully this is stuff where you want to write down, you want to start implementing, because it is so massive to be able to see the amount of greatness that he did, and the fact that this Mamba mentality is not just something that he did when he was a player. He took it into his retired lifestyle and has epically changed the game. So I'm so excited for you guys to hear this. Let's start with one of the things that I took from this podcast, and he said, he was asked, how does he lose? Like, does he lose in a positive way, or does he lose in like a oh my gosh, get back to work kind of a way. And it was interesting because Kobe said, whether you win or you lose, it's exciting. And I thought that was like so interesting. It's because, like, you know how you lose a really tight game, or you lose a game that was like a nail biter, and you just, like, you hated that loss. He said whether you win or you lose, it's exciting, because whether you win or you lose, there's always things to go back at and look at that you could have done better, no matter if you win or lose. So it's so awesome that hearing this is part of his Mamba mentality, is like whether he wins or he loses, he goes back onto every single game and looks for the things that he struggled with or didn't do as well, and went to go work on those things to make him better at whatever that was. So I thought that was super awesome, that he was just like, whether you win or you lose, it's exciting because you know you grew from that. But that's the thing, it's like you won't grow if you just walk away and forget about what had just happened on the field or on the court or wherever you compete. If you completely forget about that game, you are not taking that game and learning from it the way you're supposed to be learning from it. Just like Kobe said, it's exciting. So you can learn from every single opportunity that you put your best foot forward. Whether you come out with a win or a loss, there's so much you can learn there. So that was an awesome quote that I heard from the podcast this morning that I listened to that I really, really liked. There was another story that he liked to tell. And it was about, and I can't even tell you who the player was, but there was one game where he showed up, like, I think it was like 5 hours early, like before tip-off, like way before anybody else got there, and he was in there working in the gym. And then all of a sudden there was another player who came in early, and he was in his mind thinking, oh, like, I'm going to be the first one at the gym, like I'm going to go out, start on a good foot, like be the first one there to give me the competitive advantage, right? So this player walks into the gym, and he walks in and he's just like, I'm not the first one here. Kobe's here. Of course Kobe's here. All right, well, if he's going to be the first one here, then I'm not going to leave until Kobe leaves. And it's funny because, like, throughout this workout, they were like an hour and a half, 2 hours in, and Kobe's still in there. Kobe's still in there doing his prep work before practice. So he's still in there, and this player's just like, are you kidding me? Like, this guy won't leave. And it's pretty funny because the Lakers ended up pounding whatever team that was, and that player who came in early walked up to Kobe at the end of the game and said, hey man, like, dude, why were you in there so long? Like, how do you do what you do? And he's just like, honestly, like, I was planning to leave, like, pretty early, but since you were still in there, I had to show you that I was willing to outwork you. So I stayed. And when he told that story, I was like, this is seriously his Mamba mentality. He will go into a game or go into a practice or go into a shoot around before a game, and his job is to make sure that no one outworks him. So if he would have left early, that would have meant that the other player was outworking Kobe. And Kobe had a game to play that night. So he was like, nope, I'm not leaving because I'm not showing this guy my weakness. I'm not showing this guy that I'm going to leave early and take the back seat because that's going to give him the competitive advantage. So Kobe was always looking for ways to get a competitive advantage, and that was one of the things that he did. So no matter what, Kobe was not going to be outworked. And this is something that you can do at practice. If you show up to practice and you just go through the motions and leave, you are not giving yourself the advantage that you should be giving yourself by trying to be the hardest worker in the room. Just imagine if you were on a team and wanted to be the hardest worker in the room, and you were surrounded by the entire rest of your team who wanted to be the hardest workers in the room. Think about how much you can elevate from the start of practice to the end of practice if every single person had that mentality through every single drill, through every single game, competition, whatever it is. Be the hardest worker in the room. It doesn't mean that you have to be the best, let's talk about basketball, free throw shooter, the best three-point shooter. It's just about making sure that, let's say that person is so good at shooting threes. Okay, what makes them so good? I'm going to try to outwork that person. Because if you're trying to outwork the person that's really good at that one thing, you are going to start elevating in that one thing. So just understand that you don't have to be the overall best athlete on the court to win a game. You just have to be the best competitor. You have to be the one who's not going to let anybody outwork the way you're working. So just remember that. Do not let anybody outwork you. That's part of the Mamba mentality. One other thing that he talked about, and it's so simple when I think about it, but it's such a good comment to make. So many people, they're not satisfied with how they're playing right now, or they're not satisfied with how good they are. They're like, oh my gosh, like, I don't think I'm very good. And then they don't know why they're not very good, but a lot of times it's because you're not putting in the hours of work that you need to be very good / outstanding at whatever it is that you're trying to be good at. So he said this, the more hours you put in, the better you'll become. And he said that when he was coaching his daughter, and this is the interview that he did a year ago. So he was talking about the daughter that passed away with him. He was coaching that team. And he said the way that he coached his athletes was that I told them specifically, or I asked them, how many hours are you putting in a week of work? And he was talking about how, like, the players that are putting 2 hours a day into their craft, into their work, are the ones that are performing the best on the court. And the ones that are practicing, because the average amount of practice someone might put into something is maybe like an hour and a half, maybe like 2 times a week. But those players are underperforming the ones that are putting in more hours of work. So think about this. If you're not satisfied with the way that you're playing, are you putting in enough hours of actual work? And the way I'm saying this is, do not just say that if you're just going to show up to the cages, you're going to get better. That's not it. You have to be able to put in hard work. You're sweating. You're mentally focused. You're focused on becoming better and trying hard and making sure that you are out of your comfort zone often. So if you are doing that every single day towards your craft, expect to be better than the ones who, maybe they're putting in a lot of good work, but it's only in like an hour increment a week, and they're only putting in like 2 total hours of actual physical good work. So think about that. If you're not satisfied with, let's say, I was thinking about basketball, I'm going to say free throw, but let's say in softball, you are not satisfied with hitting the high pitch. You don't like the high pitch, you're struggling with the high pitch, and you're not doing well with it. If you can tell yourself you're not good at that, then that should be, and by the way, I'm like going into the next comment, that should be the number one thing on your list to go get good at. And when I say good, once you get good, then your job is to get great at it. Because who knows, that weakness can soon become your strength if you put in the hours of work it deserves to be worked on. So if you're struggling with a high pitch, or you're struggling with the backhand on defense, if you're struggling with something specific right now, or you were just thrown into a new position you know nothing about, your job is to take that into your own hands and say, I'm going to put in X amount of hours a day or X amount of hours a week, and this is how I'm going to go and do it. Because that's the Mamba mentality. He, no matter what, put in at least 2 hours of work into his game every single day. And that does not include working out for him. Now, I'm not saying that if you're like an 8-year-old softball player who just picked up a softball, that you need to be working a gazillion hours a week. That's not what I'm saying. But he wanted to be the best at what he did. He wanted to be the best basketball player on the court, no matter who was on the other side, and no matter who he was playing against. And because of that, he made sure that he was putting in as much work as he possibly could on being great at specific things. And this story, I'm going to end with this. He talked about how when he was 11 years old, he was playing on like a club basketball team, and he was like a goofy, he was such in a goofy size, like he was extra tall but like had no muscle and like really not much athletic ability at 11 years old. And he said he spent the entire summer, or I think he said the entire summer, and he didn't make a single basket for his team. Like he didn't score a single point for his team that year. And he said he could have either just like felt super bad about that, or he was like, okay, it's Kobe. Like he, instead of like feeling bad, he was just like, okay, what am I not very good at? And he was just like, free throws, terrible. My jump shot from 15 feet, terrible. My 3-point shot, awful. So he actually, that was like the roadmap. He was like, okay, these are all the things I'm not good at. But he didn't go about all of those things to get better at all of them. He just picked one, okay? So let's say his 15-foot shot was not good. He was like, okay, well, the 15-foot shot is what I'm going to spend most of my time on because I want to get great at that. And he spent an entire year working on that 15-foot shot to become great at that. And do you think he just stopped working on anything else in his game? No, because he's putting so much work into his 15-foot shot. Now that he's great at it, it's time to go find the next thing. So then he would go to his 3-point shot and be like, okay, now I need to go get really good at that. So understand that you're not supposed to be great at everything right now. You're not great at everything right now. Fact, I'm not great at everything right now either. But the thing is, you need to find out what that thing is that you're not great at. And you have to devote every single day and a specific amount of hours a day to that thing to become good. And like I said earlier, if you're 8 years old and you just picked up a softball and you're playing basketball and you're playing volleyball and you're playing all these other sports, you don't have to pick up this Mamba mentality with every single sport. But just think, one day when you do choose to only play softball or only play basketball or only play a sport, know that if you want to be the best at what you do in that sport, if you want to be the best one on the court, the best one that if you want to go play college softball, the best one on the field so you can get looked at, know that these are strategies that you should be picking up and doing so that you can go create those things and make those happen for you. So if you want to be the best and you want to be just like Kobe in whatever it is or whatever realm that you're doing, understand that it takes sacrifice. It takes many hours, couple hours a day working on your craft to be the best. That's what he was doing, to be the best. He also walked into every single situation, every single game, knowing that he will not be outworked that game. So if there's a defender that he's playing against that's like the best in the country right now, his job is to not let that guy outwork him that day. That's how he grew and elevated. And the last thing that I said at the beginning, it's that whether you lose or whether you win, it's an exciting feeling because you got better if you look at those things that you didn't do too great in that performance and then go hone in on those skills that you need to prepare to be better at those things. And then boom, you're so much better because of that loss or because of that win. So look at both losses and wins in the same way and you're setting yourself up for success. So I got to get going, Kobe. I could probably do like a whole year's worth of things that Kobe has taught me or other athletes that we can learn together. But these were just a few that stood out to me personally. But again, I'd love if you share it. Let's start adopting the Mamba mentality starting today. So go find your flaw, go find your weakness, and go make yourself better at it today. All right, with that, see you guys later. I'll see you next week at 3 p.m. Eastern, and thanks for being here. Bye.